Oh, well, good morning, everybody. It's Andrew Jenkins here, and this is a quick, short countdown timer to help the various live feeds catch up and settle down so we can find the feed, because it takes a while for us to find it. And we can't wait for today's groovy show, folks. And we're going to be hanging out with the lovely, awesome Maria Jeffers, entrepreneur, transformational and mental toughness expert with a massive passion for horse jumping, and that takes a lot of guts to do that. I was going to use a different word there for a moment. So Maria Jeffers, and our theme is all of those pesky limiting beliefs that trip us up and how to overcome them, folks. Give us a quick wave, Maria. There we go. A quick hello. Brilliant. Just trying to work out whether the feed's coming up there. And there's the feed, I think. Here we go. Yes, we're on. Oops. There we are. Lovely. And there's people coming through already. Brilliant. And yeah, we've got Sarah Jenkins, our FD of PDX, our moderator, Mrs. Moderator. Quick hello, quick wave, Sarah.
Morning.
Hey, there we are. Morning. And we probably have Tilly's gang in the background from Marketing CX. We've got David Agnew from Ghost, our sponsors, on. So hello, Silver Fox. Hello, Mateus. Good morning, Paul Winfield. Fantastic. So Maria, me, Sarah, Ghost, our sponsors, Marketing CX in the background. That's our team today, folks. Wow, there we are. And here's our trailer. Brilliant. Lovely. Okay, so oi oi people and hi gang, it's Leaders Live showtime, folks, and good morning, Adrian Chase from Melksham in Wiltshire. Fantastic. Okay, brilliant. And it's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK, and we are live with Leaders Live. Spreading the love, folks, spreading the love. Yappa dabba do. And we hope that you enjoyed that groovy opener too, gang. And we're delighted that we're being powered by our sponsor, brand and design agency Ghost. Yay. I think that might deserve a round of applause somewhere if I can find it. And I can't, but never mind. And I hope you're in, where am I? And yep, let us know if our audio is coming through as well, please. So that would be great. And if you're new to Leaders Live, please join in with us. It's a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business, folks, through networking, through community, through extraordinary conversations that inspire. That's how we roll. And as I mentioned, the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and I host this interactive weekly Leaders Live show that's built on an awesome community of like-minded leaders. So there we are. And so please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself and join in the interaction. This is an interactive show. Join in with the comments, chat to us, ask questions, put a queue in front of your comments in the feed if you want to ask a question as we go along. That's absolutely fine. Mrs. Moderator will pick those up for you. I'll introduce her in a moment. And we have 3 simple rules, folks: a safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto is I to the power of we. We love that. And by the way, one really easy way that you can give back to the show, if you appreciate all the love and time that we put into this free show, folks, you can buymeacoffee.com, buy me a coffee link. It's brilliant. Buymeacoffee.com /Leaders Live. The link will be in the feed. Blah, blah, blah. And if you buy me 5, you get a free half-hour coaching session. And thanks for Dan's Hoffrat and Simon Brooks for buying me coffees during the week and last week's show as well. So, and Sarah put the link in the feed, as I've said, and you get a shout out too. And it looks a bit like this, if I can find it. Where is it? It's a nice little app, and you get your name in lights as well. There it is. So it looks like that. So that's great, isn't it? And smash those likes too, folks. Just trying to find that. Now, where are we? Here we go. Smash those likes too, folks. We'd really appreciate that. Keeps us motivated as we're going along. And we'd love you to subscribe to our email list for updates. And it's awesome. And we promise you there'll be no junk, no spam. So, real simple. To get the link for that, just follow the Linktree URL. And you can just connect on various channels. So that just makes it really easy for you. And the link will be in the feed. And Steve Wright says, loud and proud. Thanks, Steve. Great to have you on the show. Steve's going to be on the show next week, so we'll shout him out a bit later. So if you put it all together, what do we got? Bibbidi, poppity, poo. I love that. And let's bring in our guest for this week. Good morning, Maria Jeffers. How you doing?
Morning, Andrew. It's good to be here. I'm normally watching this every week, so I just said, didn't I? It feels really strange now that I'm on here. It's great.
Well, you've been on once before. We
I
talked to
have.
you ages ago. Must
I
have
think
been
it
well
was
over a
last
year
summer.
ago.
Yeah.
Last
Yeah, it's
summer.
a while
Oh,
ago.
right, last summer. So there we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking about those pesky limiting beliefs, right? And what's tripping you up and how to overcome them. That's where we're heading today. So give us
Yes.
a bit of a direction of travel. Where are you taking us, Maria? Give us a little bit of
Well, we just
background.
really want to explore, more about how the thoughts in our heads, how the things that we were taught when we were younger, how these really impact the way we live our life.
Ooh.
So it's really just going to get behind the surface and see if we can, help explore how the way that we think really shapes who we are.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The voices in our heads, isn't it? And yeah, so ooh. Okay, so that's where we're heading, folks. And just out of interest, Maria did her homework last week. Not that we set any homework, but Maria did a vision board last week because we had Lisa Baker talking about vision boards,
Yes.
and Maria's gone and done hers. So there you go. So if you've done yours from last week, just show us a picture in the feed. There's Maria's. Look at that. Isn't that brilliant?
I said there's a bit of a gap there, but I just need to have a picture of a horse jumping.
There we go. Yeah, Maria is a keen horse jumper. So there we go. Takes a lot of bottle to do that. There you go. So she's done her homework. So if you've done your leaders live, if you've done your vision board from last week, show us in the feed what pictures you've got. That would be fantastic. It's like Blue Peter, isn't it? Show and tell. There we go. So kick us off with we've got an audience question just to keep us going, to get us going. What have we got as a question for the audience just to kind of hit the feed for us?
Okay. So it's really interesting. Just have a think about, at short notice, if you were given a sales pitch that you need to do that involves presenting to people for your organization, and you've got a few days to prepare for this.
Oh, just a
How
few
does
days.
this, just a few days, how does this start to make you feel? And what sort of internal mind chatter do you start to have? Would you say that it is more motivational? Would you say that you're not fazed by it? Or would you say that fear and panic starts to set in? So out of those three, if you've got a few days, you've got a presentation to put together, it's an important sales pitch, what internal dialogue do you start to have?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I know. Are you in comfort, stretch, or panic? And there's the question
Yeah.
in the feed. And John Attish says, yeah. That's what John says, yeah. Well, we'll come back to that in a moment. There's a bit of a delay in the feed. So please put your answers to the question in the feed. There's no right or wrong here. This just gets the interaction going. And just bring in the moderator. Good morning, Mrs. Moderator. How you doing, Chuck?
Good morning. Yeah, doing very well. Looking forward to this. If it was me doing the presentation, I would be in panic, Maria.
Yeah, there you go.
Or I would not be doing it.
Or run away quick. Oh my God.
I don't need to really think too hard about that one.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. So are you in comfort, stretch, or panic with last minute big things, like public speaking, or like we've got here, a sales pitch that you've got to do? So, answers in the feed, please. So back to you again, Maria.
Being a bit shy today. Come on, guys.
Yeah, come on, guys. Let's have you. There's a couple of comments coming in. We'll come to those in a moment. So, and just give you a round of applause just to kick us off. There you go. Hope you enjoyed. Feel the love, Maria. Feel the love.
Hey.
You enjoyed the groovy build-up. So, So while we're just waiting for the feed to just catch up a little bit, there's a few things going in the feed at the moment. We did this poll the other day. Here it is here. So did this poll on LinkedIn. So is your inner mind chatter A, helpful, spurs you on, sometimes distracting, can be negative, holding you back? And there's the stats. 41% of you said helpful, it spurs you on. So presumably you're in stretch, and sometimes distracting, that might mean you're in comfort, perhaps can be negative, holding you back. They're the kind of maybe the panic ones. What do you say, Maria? What do you think to those stats?
Yeah, I'm surprised actually, which in a good way though, but I'm thinking maybe our audience, we are people who do stretch ourselves. So I'm thinking maybe these results could be a little bit skewed, because I am surprised that there's not more people feeling like their internal dialogue holds them back and there's more negative self-talk. So this is great. Maybe we are all becoming more self-aware, and because of the community we have here, where people are privy to this sort of information and interaction, maybe we're self-aware, because that's the key really, isn't it? Being aware. So
Yeah, and yet we're all human, aren't we? And
Yeah.
I used to play this as a game when. Do you remember the time when we could do this in real life? So I used to present this topic ages ago, and I used to pose a similar question to this, and we get about 40% of people in stretch and about 30% in comfort, and the rest would be in panic. So there you go.
Yeah. No, it is. It's
S-
interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? The hold me back
Yeah,
was really interesting because, that's where
that
limiting
is.
beliefs really come to play, isn't it? When they hold you back and
Yeah,
can be
absolutely. Yeah.
negative. So we'll come on to that in a moment. So let's just quickly go to the chat, see what's going on before we get to some questions here. What's going on in the chat
They're
Mrs.
listening to it.
Moderator?
It's all coming in
It's
now.
all coming
Paul
in.
Winfield, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Enjoys pressured situations, would welcome the challenge.
Okay,
Um,
there we go. So I can bring him up.
Marion
There he is.
David's panic stations. Yes, I can.
Panic.
I can go.
Morning, Marlon. How you doing? That's great to see you. Right, yeah.
Joe Cooper, massive panic attack.
Massive panic attack. Morning, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Matthias, depends on the situation and the importance of the pitch, and I think that is quite.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's all context dependent, isn't
Well,
it?
it depends if you've got the knowledge, then that's fine. But he said he'd probably think he could wing it and then panic a bit the night before.
Yeah, because he hasn't done any prep, right, Matthias?
That's homework. Sandra Howarth, out of the comfort zone, would like the challenge but panic.
Oh, morning, Sandra. Brilliant.
Oh, hi, Sandra. I know
John
Sandra.
Attridge did a really good point. Peter Drucker observed 92% of entrepreneurs are product led, therefore they would be in panic mode. The 8% that are sales led would be excited.
So there you go. So if you're kind of natural sales led organization, then you're more likely. Okay, that's interesting stat. That what else is going on?
Adrian Chase.
Oh, hello, Adrian.
Now he's done a few, looks forward to speaking, but that's really because he likes to influence people.
Yeah. I suppose it's okay, if you know your topic, Adrian, and what happens if it's something you don't know about? Would that be different for you? That would be interesting. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's about it so far.
I like it, Jonas's. I'd probably wing it. You're such a charmer, Joe. I like that, Jonas. Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, so Maria, let's bring on Maria. Let's bring back Maria. So here we go. So what is a belief then, Maria? We're talking about limiting beliefs, and why is this important? Why do we have to pay attention to this? What's the so what here for us? Maria, take it away for us.
Our belief system is something that we accept to be a truth without really questioning it. So, this can come from the way that we're brought up, our whole experience of life, our views, our opinions, and they're things that slip in without being really noticed. And that's where it's quite difficult. Beliefs, they disguise themselves. So we just accept them to be as it is. It's a truth. And until we're challenged and become more self-aware that, actually, we could look at this in a different way, then we don't always realise that the beliefs that we hold. So I always find it a really interesting exercise, to a conversation to have with people, just to make them more aware of the things that they are believing in and how that is possibly helping them or, having a negative influence on where they're trying to get to.
Yeah. So it's something that we accept as being true, and therefore we don't question it. Is that what you said, Maria? Something along those lines?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it can be a very simple thing. It could be the belief that we're no good in the getting up in the morning. I'm not, I'm no good at that. That's my belief, is that I'm not a morning person.
I'm no good at this, on that, and the other.
Yeah, I'm no good at that. Yeah. You actually, we maybe could be. It's just maybe a pattern that we've gotten into, a way of thinking, and we've become that. We've got a great way as humans of making ourselves right. So whatever we choose to believe in, we will find proof, we'll find evidence that we're not.
Yeah.
And that's where many people's beliefs that are formed in the younger years, it may be because they failed at something once. They've thought, that's not for me, I'm no good at that. And they have got a little bit of proof because they've tried and they failed. But let's face it, how many of us need to fail and fail and fail again before we start to improve and actually enjoy a process? So I think we can form these beliefs of the failure being a bad thing. That could be a real fundamental belief. To fail is bad. Now, if we change that...
Yeah, I'm with you. Just think about that failure piece there for a moment. And that's beautifully said, actually, because that's if you fail repeatedly, then, what's happening there is we're hitting our fight or flight mechanisms, aren't we? And it makes us feel really bad. And it's painful. isn't it, when we fail?
It's painful.
And I
Yeah.
know, as sort of coaches and, transformational experts and things like that will say, well, yeah, failure is all part of the learning process. Yeah, it is. Still doesn't make it not painful, right? It's really flipping
No,
painful, failure.
it is.
And, we have to recognize that, we're all saying these days, oh yeah, failure is really, really good. But actually it comes with a lot of pain, doesn't it? And also, a lot of this is autopilot as well, isn't it? Things that are just responding in the moment, and it's unconscious autopilot defaults that sort of are immediate. You mentioned the word patterns, didn't you? Programs. These are programs which fire off and run in our bodies when a certain thing happens in external experience. Our brains fetch out, oh, that's similar to this pattern, right? Is that what happens?
That's it. That's evidence. I'm no good at that because that's happened. So we'll find the proof.
And interesting. Back on that failure thing, just an example. So we can say, well, I failed at this, therefore I am a failure, right?
Yeah.
So
we attach ourselves to it.
We attach ourselves to it. So I might have failed my GCSE or O-level maths. That doesn't make me a failure. It just means that strategy for revision just didn't work well. But the key thing is that actually what we do is we drive failure to be a personal to us. Do we, Maria? Is that what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. We do. We attach ourselves to outcomes. So, our successes and our failures can define us.
Yeah.
High achievers can be very attached to their success. So although they're having outward success, inwardly, they could still really struggle because they're so attached that life could be quite painful. And unless you're keeping the bar very, very high all of the time in every area of your life, it can be quite exhausting. And that's where our mind can start to override our body. So you get things like burnout, you get stress, you get anxiety, because from the outside, it looks brilliant and you're successful. You've got the lovely house, the lovely car, the money, the hobbies, but it could be actually wearing you down because you sometimes we just need to be a bit kinder to ourselves. That's I'll talk about that a bit later, but where this self-compassion piece comes in.
Gotcha. So actually, the way we talk to ourselves might be completely different from what is shown externally.
Yeah.
Okay. So it'd be really interesting to see what's happening in the feed in a moment. But also, look, if you've got some observations and thoughts, pop them in the feed. That would be really useful. Let's just come quickly to Mrs. Moderator again. What's going on in the feed? Looks like there's tons going on.
Lots in the feed, really. So let's have a look. Joe Cooper, baggage from upbringing sometimes doesn't help. I think as parents ourselves, it's terrifying when you think about how we influence our children and what baggage we might be heaping on them completely unconsciously. And if you think too much, nobody'd ever have kids.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Because Maria, you said that beliefs come from our youth and we pick them up. So clearly we pick them up from one or two places, right? Probably our parents as a major role model, but also from school, I reckon, as well.
Yeah, authority, isn't it?
Authority,
I think it tends to be, as a
authority.
child, anyone we see in a position of responsibility, authority, and if they're telling us something, and it could just be a belief of theirs, we take it on board as a truth of the way something is. And it can also just be how we interpret things. Someone can say a certain thing to a group of people, but we all hear it slightly differently. So again, some of it is just down to our own interpretation.
It's how we hear it. Yeah, that's
interesting. It's how we're hearing things.
Yeah.
Some people, for example, let's say you've got a teacher in school that is particularly shouty, quite a shouty sort of teacher. Yeah. Now, some children will interpret that as personal, that they always shout at me. I don't like going to that class because I get told off, and they personalise it. Another child may think, that teacher's always shouting. They're not a very good teacher because they shout too much. So their interpretation of the same thing could have quite a different impact on how their belief system is set up.
And you mentioned something there just in passing. It's interesting when you talk about limiting beliefs. You said, so that teacher always shouts, always. I'm never good enough. I'm always failing.
Yeah, those words, actually.
Massive generalizations, aren't they? So that teacher doesn't always shout, but in our heads, that teacher
in our head, we
shouting.
make it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a massive generalization.
It is.
Sarah, what else?
Right, Adrian Chase, I use innate freedom cards to help people open up and really look at their beliefs. For me, it's about our human needs. Jonas, we only fail if we fail to learn from the situation. Absolutely.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. Failure's okay, provided we don't make a habit of it. I think
Yeah,
is
don't do
what
it too
you
often.
And
Okay.
and if it, this is the other thing I'm learning as well. When failure does keep happening uh, in the same scenario, it's that you can learn, right? What do I need to change here? There's something, I'm trying this and trying again and trying again, and I just keep failing. What can I tweak or alter that could have a different, a different output?
It is,
So
isn't
it
it?
is, yeah,
And even if it's just the language, right? And
yeah,
noticing evidence to the contrary. Okay. Yeah, I
yeah,
get
Yeah,
that.
if
We'll
if
come.
you want a different outcome, you've got to change something, because if you
Yeah.
keep doing
that's
the
right.
same thing, you're going to keep getting the same
Same
outcome.
result.
That's
Yeah,
it.
very true.
Yeah.
Bit of NLP in there. What else is going on?
There you go. John Attridge, fleas in the jar syndrome is real. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile in 1954.
Didn't he
Within
just?
46 days, John Landy also did it, followed by 2000 since then. So absolutely something that was impossible suddenly.
Yeah. And
Yeah, yeah.
then loads of people do it. Yeah. Thank
And
you.
that's right. And that is, again, that comes from, as I was saying before, sometimes a little bit of proof or evidence that can work. It can be, well, if you can do it, I can do it. So this can work in a positive way for us, that we've got proof that it can be done. And I used to do this with my horse riding. I would stand and watch these people my age jumping, and I would think, well, if they can do it, I can do this.
Well, yeah,
If
why
they're not,
can't
I'm
I
not
do it?
talking about professional show jumping here. These are local competitions.
Okay.
If my evidence was, I am watching people similar to me do this, so it's possible, and that
They can
spurred
do
me
it.
on.
I
That
can
was
do it. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah.
It's a bit like
Fantastic.
that with the cold water swimming, isn't it? No, you see,
The flinch.
going back to the cold showers and the cold
Yeah.
water swimming. But we were swimming last week, and people would talk to you on the beach, going, "Oh, I could never do that."
Never
And we
do
probably
that.
thought I could
Yeah.
never do that until our daughter went, "Well, I'm doing it. Are you coming with me?" And it's like, "Oh, maybe I can do it." And yeah,
That's it.
very interesting,
So
isn't
you
it?
challenge the belief.
Lots of chat about maths teachers. Graham Rose, he tries and
Good
gets
morning,
comfortable
Graham.
with feeling uncomfortable to start to tackle that inner critic.
Oh, yeah, we're going to come to that, Graham.
Yeah.
Spot on. Yeah, it's acknowledging the fact that something's going on that's uncomfortable and getting okay with that. And then it starts to tackle itself. That's really interesting. Getting to know your inner critic. Lovely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah. Matthias makes a good comment. My friend Nicola Connolly-Byrne, empowerment specialist, told me her advice to tackle the inner critic every morning. She stands in front of her mirror and says to herself 10 times, "I am enough."
Lovely.
Tried myself, definitely contributed to lifting my spirit.
Yeah, I am learning that I am enough. I love that.
Definitely,
Brilliant.
I love that.
Very good. Yeah.
Yes,
Great.
I've used positive mantras before.
Yeah.
I've said things in the mirror, and because our brains need to hear this, and if it's not coming from the outside world to us, then we can provide this for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
You can
absolutely.
say this if you've not got people coming up to you every day saying, you know what, you're enough just as you are. Most people don't do that to each other, right? So, but
They
it's
don't
good
do that
as a parent. I am, I realise more now. I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and I wish I would have done all of this years ago, because my 6-year-old and my 11-year-old are benefiting from this more than she's been able to. And I just feel like it's so important to tell our kids, you are enough, without all achievement, without doing well. You just are enough as you are.
Love that. Yeah. And that's the responsibility, isn't it? Is to break the past.
Yeah.
I mean, really interesting what's coming up here. The cycles. I remember when I was doing my NLP training years and years ago, Train the Trainer, and a few of my colleagues at the time, they mentioned to me when, just in passing, when we were making food and stuff, "Andrew, you've got lots of negative inner mind chatters." No, I haven't. They go, "Yes, you have." I go, "No, I haven't." But the more I looked at it, the more I realised they were right, but it was brilliant to have that feedback, because that was like a pattern interrupt to me, because I didn't realise that I was actually doing it, and it took somebody else to notice the patterns for me and kind of go, "Andrew, this is what you're doing," and that really helped me.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit like we put some stuff together here, didn't we, Maria? When we look at this, talk us through this list dot here.
Well, we're looking at this as the way in our mind. This is how a belief can just be there, very small.
Yeah.
And when we pay a lot of attention to it and start to really listen to it, it starts to then
get bigger like that.
Yeah, it gets bigger. And then, it's got our attention then. And we're really focused on that. We're really believing it. And then it starts to multiply, and you get more of these dots.
And,
so
right.
before you know it, your brain is being overtaken by these negative thoughts. And we've lost touch with reality. We are making our own reality in our head that isn't actually happening.
So this is when the truth really comes in, isn't it? So when we can start, as Graham Rose says, we becoming aware of it at this level, and I think you'd say the same, wouldn't you, Maria? At this level, it's okay to have a limiting belief pop into your head at this point because you can interrupt it, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's it. You can say, yeah, I understand, I hear you, but I'm still going to decide to do this or take this action. So you're aware of it, but you can move through it.
You can move through it. We'll come to some examples at the moment, but let's say mine would be, I'll only be okay if everybody likes me, but actually when that belief pops in my head, it's like, oh, there you are again. Okay, I can see you there, but I'm not going to choose to do this, which is, it just grows bigger in my mind. And then you get lots of voices popping up. Tell us about those lots of voices. I mean, I wonder whether people realise that.
Absolutely. I didn't realise that we all have different characters to the voices in our head. So
I didn't know this either. Yeah.
I know. So, for example, we all have a judge. If you think about our mind chatter as being a judge, and that judge in our head judges ourselves, judges others, and judges circumstances. So that judge could be saying things like, they'll never do that. They'll never finish that piece of work you've given them. Or I would do better. I'll do a better job, so I won't delegate. So you could have quite a arrogant sort of judge in your head, or you could have a judge that is more, I'm not good enough for that. No, they won't pick me for that. So it's more of a negative voice. So there's, negativity comes in many different ways. And the different characters, the judge, does have an accomplice. And there's different characters, such as a pleaser. And they get their friend in. So you've got mind chatter coming from your judge, and then they bring the friend in.
Okay.
And they could be a pleaser. So you could have the voice of a pleaser in your mind. You could have the voice of a stickler. So someone where everything has to be perfect or you can't take action. And that's really, really common. And that can really just stop any progress with ourselves because we just can't move forward until everything's perfect.
Yeah.
You could have the controller. Where you have to be in control. You have to make sure that you know what's going to happen, which obviously is just impossible because things are ever changing. So that, again, you've got this voice that is blocking you from taking action. You could have the victim. You could have the voice in your head that says, "Oh, poor you."
Yeah,
they shouldn't be talking to you like that. Exactly. So there's lots of different characters in our head, and it's really helped me. I've realised my main three. I've got avoider, yeah. So that, for me, that makes total sense as to why, when I look back, I found certain situations so uncomfortable because my fight or flight response was just trying to get me out and away. It didn't want me to feel the discomfort. So the chatter that developed in my mind was, let's try and avoid doing this. So that could be procrastination. I'm going to avoid preparing for something because I don't really want to do it. So let's just avoid preparing for it. And then what you get then, obviously it doesn't go very well because you haven't prepared properly.
It's like when we're kids, you hide behind the sofa, don't you? And or you just put your hands over your eyes, and of course your parents can't see you, right? Because what you can't see, they can't see.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just avoid this is happening.
Okay.
And pleaser is another one as well. So you think, like you were saying, it's important for everyone to like me.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I could maybe make others not like me, or I'll avoid conflict. So the avoider and the pleaser, they're really quite dangerous together because you can imagine the things that I just step out of life,
an unholy alliance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the audience questions are. What the audience would say as their, when your limiting belief is in place, say, what friends does your limiting belief bring along on court? So you've got the judge, you've got the pleaser, you've got the avoider, you've got the friend, you've got the stickler, the victim.
Yeah, there's a
the
controller,
the hyper-rational, hyper-vigilant, the rational.
Yes.
So, it'd be interesting to see.
There's research being done into this. And there's definitely, these are independent factors. So we do have, independent voices.
Brilliant.
And we can have a mixture of them all.
Yeah.
But we tend to have a top three that are constantly there.
Okay, so when the limiting belief first forms and then it starts to get bigger, at this point it invites all its friends. So it'd be really interesting to see what you guys are listening. What what happens to you? What are you aware of? So, yeah, and just some ideas of, look, this inner mind chat is quite interesting, isn't it? Here's a few examples, Maria. What say you about these examples here?
Absolutely. Well, these are, this is someone who is thinking they're not good enough.
Yeah.
So this limiting belief is coming from, like you say, it sounds like victim, avoider, someone not feeling good enough. But you can also have limiting beliefs that are the opposite, where it's I'm better than everyone else, so I'm always right.
Superior.
And that limit, superiority, that limits us just as much. Because you imagine someone who thinks that way, what sort of a leader they would make. So it can be that you have this inner, quite arrogant voice going on, but it's still limiting you because you're not tapping into some more creative, innovative, trusting, all the lovely things that are there that we can learn to tap into, rather than the domineering voices of the judge and the critic.
Yeah. And these are typically saying, look, I'm rubbish, I'm not worthy. Typical. Why does this always happen to me? So here we go again. Like yeah, I'm useless. I can't do this. It's not fair. There's another one. There's the one from childhood. It is not fair. I'm not good enough. And it's interesting. If no one's going to police these, because you're the only policeman, right? Or police lady. If you're not policing them, actually they start then to form into sort of like a limiting belief here. So are these some examples, are they, Maria?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like you've just shown on the earlier slide, it is these thoughts in our head that we think it's us. We think it's actually how we are thinking. But being self-aware that we're getting hijacked by these negative voices that are coming from the more primitive side of the brain, that our brain needs to survive. We need to survive. So the brain sometimes wants us to avoid certain situations or take control or get everything right, because that makes us feel safe. So, the judge and the accomplices are trying to do a good job for us, but we can't believe their lies because they are getting in the way. And, there's definitely the more creative side of the brain that we can tap into, where curiosity lives, compassion. There's a more settled, contented and peaceful way to live than being pushed and bullied by the judge and these voices. We can definitely make a shift.
Okay, we're going to come on to that in a moment. So that's really, so hold that thought there, because that's where we're going next. So, here's some examples of just becoming aware of these things of, deep down, I'm not clever enough, I'm a failure, don't like me, all people are dangerous. I remember coaching someone who had that as a belief. Can you imagine holding that every day in your mind? I'll only be good enough if everybody likes me. That was mine, folks. That was mine before I worked on it. I'll only be good enough if everybody likes me. Nothing works out for me. It's always my fault. There's the generalization, and I never get taken seriously. There's another generalization. Yeah. So that's just
absolutely. I mean, I used to hold the belief, but learning to ride again and show jump. Yeah, I held a fundamental belief: the horse riding is dangerous.
Yeah.
So how was I ever going to progress? Where I had hold of this belief that it's really dangerous. Yeah, I'm doing it. And it was just, of course, I would internally, my body must have been thinking, well, no, you don't want to be doing this because it's dangerous. You keep telling yourself it's dangerous. So I had to let go of the belief that horse riding is dangerous. It's not dangerous if you can horse ride, is it? If you can actually do it, it's not dangerous.
And interesting, these are contagious, right? So you talk about, horse jumping. So presumably, if you've got that as a belief, your horse is going to pick that up through your body, right? Because, that's what's going on in your head, which means your body is mirroring what you're thinking.
Absolutely. It starts to show up in our physiology, doesn't it? So I would go a little bit fetal position, not realising it. You've got to sit nice and tall on your horse. And I might end up just a little bit hunched over, and that's sending a negative. So my horse is thinking, what's wrong? Can feel the tension, can feel that, stiffness sort of set in. So it's all about the more physiologically relaxed I am, sends a good message to my head, sends a good message to my horse, and we're just as one then.
Isn't that interesting? So, these things are, people pick them up, right? Because we're hypersensitive as human beings, and, all animals are hypersensitive, and they'll pick these things up. So that's really interesting. Let's just give you a break for a moment. Mrs. Moderator, what's going on in the chat, Sarah?
Lots going on. Graham Rose, useful to hear positive intelligence being shared today. Helpful not to fight the limiting belief. Label it, and concentrate on the physical aspect of our senses, e.g. breathing. Like you were saying, you have a thought in your head and your body goes, so that's, Adrian Chase, I definitely struggle with a perfectionist character in my mind.
There you go. That's what comes out for you, Adrian. That's useful to know. These are great pieces of self-awareness.
Jonas says, Maria, avoidance is an excellent way to wing it.
Yes.
Preparation prevents beep, poor performance.
Joe Cooper, I'm going to start not listening to those little voices in my head, but figure out who they are and deal with them.
Yeah, just becoming aware of them means we interrupt the dot before it gets too big, right?
I think the fascinating thing for me listening to all this, because before I knew, when you were coming on, Maria, and you were saying, it's about inner mind chatter, and we were doing the poll, and I went, I don't really have any inner mind chatter. And actually, as you listen, you begin to realise, well, I do, but it's not obvious. It's a feeling, maybe.
Subtle,
and until you understand or start learning about inner mind chatter and go, maybe that feeling is a voice in my head, but I would never thought about it like that before. So I think just having that dawning realization that you might not have labeled it as inner mind chatter, but it's there. You just don't realize what it is, which is fascinating.
And it's very, limiting beliefs are really clever at disguising themselves as excuses. As
and protection.
Reason. Exactly. So it comes up in different ways. I find that really interesting. You're right. Until you become aware of it, you think, I don't have any negative thoughts.
Yeah. And then you go, maybe I do.
Oh, actually,
Matthias, to be a pleaser can backfire more than you can guess. If you never stand up to anybody, you'll be a complete pushover.
Yeah, definitely.
And there'll be a belief in play on that one there, that I'm not good enough, or that everyone else is better than me, or whatever.
And I think you can, you were talking about burnout. If your natural instinct, which mine is to make sure everybody else is okay, and you put yourself at the bottom of the pile, and every now and again I'll throw my toys out the pram and go, I'm not okay. And it's like, well, you didn't say anything,
Yeah, I know. Because we start to resent it then, because we're doing these things to please, and we're liking the feeling of being liked. But then we're thinking, actually, they didn't even notice I've done that for them, or they haven't even said thank you. So resentment starts to build up. So
totally take it for granted, and you go, actually, you set yourself up for this one.
There you go, Sarah. That's it. Perfect. I like that. Brilliant. What else is going on?
Paul Winfield says, embrace your shadow.
Yeah.
Yes.
John Attridge, got to be careful if you have teams, dig out snipers, those with limiting beliefs that want to impose them on others.
Because this stuff's highly contagious, particularly in teams. Massive,
definitely.
Yeah, and I think
it really is.
Graham says this: saboteurs are contagious, horses pick it up. So we're just picking up on the previous theme. But we also pick it up from each other. The saboteur contagion, he calls it. Yes. Wow, that's brilliant. Hashtag saboteur contagion.
You'd have to learn to spell it first.
Contagion. Yeah, indeed. Well done. And just a thought on. Yeah, it is, isn't it? And just a thought on that. We're just picking up what people are saying there. Look, say an external experience comes along, Maria. Then our protection and survival instincts are tweaked by something odd happening around us, so, oh God, that person doesn't like me. So immediately our survival instincts are being tweaked, aren't they? And that triggers our fear and deficiency in our past history, which is like the downstairs primitive part of our brain that then nudges our fight or flight circuits, that then directly connects to our physiology. And this is where it becomes truthful, right, Maria? Because it gets amplified by our emotional body state. Yeah. And it's really our body that then generates the chatter in our minds. It's not the other way around. It's actually our body which gets it before our head does, because our heads are pretty slow. And then our negative inner mind chatter kicks in. And by that time, that dot's getting bigger, right? That black dot that we started with. And then we start to build internal statements, which eventually, if this thing keeps happening to us over and over again, the limiting belief gets formed, right? Is that how it works, Mary?
It is, isn't it? Because, as I say, our body's looking for the proof. So we actually we have a feeling, an internal feeling that can start in different parts. Sometimes it could be you're sweating, or your heart rate's higher, or you just feel unsettled. And then the thoughts start to come in. And one is feeding the other then. So unless we intercept and start to go inwards and just hang on, let's just slow everything down, and how is it I want to be? You know, we actually move ourselves out of this state. Then, you know, it is possible to intercept this. It's when we don't realize that it's possible, when we just go in a downward spiral.
So the interception is important, yeah.
Yes,
So, you know, you've mentioned that our limiting beliefs invariably make us feel that we're not deserving or worthy. You know, we've just been through that model there. You know, even if we've been successful, you mentioned that earlier. So how do we recognize them and become aware of our limiting beliefs that are in play, Maria? How do we sort of start to, as you mentioned just a moment ago, intercept them? What do we do? How do we get this done?
I think it is starting to become aware of your bodily reactions to things. You know, when do you start to feel stressed? What are the circumstances? And then explore some of what is it I'm telling myself before I'm about to do this? What are the actual messages that I'm sending to myself? So yeah, if I'm starting to feel a bit anxious, I've got something coming up, I'm feeling anxious, where is that coming from? And something to intercept is, rather than looking out there for all of the answers, so you're looking to blame the situation or the person, or, you know, something about yourself. It is just, I find, just go inwards more, just close your eyes and just breathe. And really, what we want to do is strengthen our self-command muscle. So it is very much to intercept this fight or flight sort of feeling, or the limiting beliefs that we have, is let's practice strengthening the muscles in our brain that are going to allow us to have a clearer mind, to be able to think, just think more clearly about things. And for me, that is going inward and taking time to breathe and letting thoughts pass through, not attaching to our thoughts, just letting them pass, practicing just letting our thoughts pass through, and focusing whether it is on a sound in the distance or a sound close. Just focus on something and focus on that one thing only, just for a couple of minutes, and we strengthen our self-command muscles. So then when it does come to a situation in the day where we feel like we're being stopped because of our perfectionist tendencies, you know, something has to be just right, it's maybe just take a moment. Does it need to be that way? Or is this something I'm telling myself? You know, is this the way it is, or is there another way of looking at it?
Is right. Is this the real truth? So you're starting to look at yourself then, Maria, aren't you? And if you start to blame or you're starting to judge, it's learning to recognize that. Is that what you're saying? As adults, we can interrupt these patterns by doing that. Is that the idea?
We can, because we do build habits. We are creatures of habit, aren't we? So we have a belief, and then we start to build a habit maybe around that. And it is it is just really sometimes questioning, well, where's that come from? You know, why do I need to be the one in control? Why do I feel that? What is it about uncertainty that unsettles me so much? Because until I can learn to surf life rather than have to control it, you know, life is going to always be a challenge, even if I'm achieving and I'm right at the top. If I feel like I've always got to be in control of everything, it's not really a pleasurable way to live. So it is, you know, really about going and having a good think about, well, what is it that I believe, and where is this getting in my way? And do I need to let go of some of these beliefs?
I really like that. I love that idea. And because these are autopilot, right? You know, because it's easier. Our minds are built to run on autopilot, I guess. You know, so that we don't have to think about stuff, right? So that our minds serve us up a first option, don't they? So, okay, here's what you normally do in this situation, Maria. Bang. So your brain offers you an autopilot response. The key thing is that we don't have to take that, do we? We can interrupt that pattern and kind of go, now I know that's my reactive response, and my brain served that up for me, but I don't have to follow it through. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, it is. Gotcha. It is just having that awareness not to be... See, we're very reactive sometimes as people, aren't we? We just react, we assume, we react. Yeah. Sometimes just slowing down. It comes easier to some than others, because some people are probably already doing this. For me, I was quite reactive to things. If something would happen and I would react, rather than just taking the time to think, well, actually, does that mean the thing I've jumped to a conclusion there? Is that actually true? Or is that a belief that I'm putting on something? So it can stop us assuming a lot of things.
Right. When we assume. Sorry, I just got that.
Yeah. No, it is, because a lot of our beliefs, they lead us to, we know the answer to, we jump in, we think we know the answer before we do, because our beliefs are set up, our views, our opinions are there, and we don't realize it, we don't see. So it is a great to be able to dissect our own views, opinions, and beliefs. And often it is a coach that we need to work with to understand this, because we need the right questions asking of us, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's becoming, sometimes we're not aware of it, or we kid ourselves, or we just ignore it. But actually having someone we're responsible to, like a coach, can help us dissect that. And then, as you mentioned earlier, challenge those assumptions, right, Maria? Those are important things. We can't always do that on our own because we kid ourselves. Let's just give you a quick break for a moment. Mrs. Moderator, what's going on?
Oh, sorry, it was on mute.
Ah.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, Joe Cooper, excellent advice, Maria.
Thank you, Joe.
Adrian Chase, this has piqued my interest here, Adrian. Being able to remain calm has actually saved my life when I ended up at the bottom of Brixton Harbour.
Oh.
There is a definite story attached to that, and now I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know more.
We want to know more. Yeah.
He also had a really interesting point when we were talking about wanting to be liked.
Yeah.
And I'll be okay if everybody likes me. Really, this made me think. He said, if I had a choice, I'd rather be respected.
Oh, what does that mean, do you think?
Well, not everybody has to like you.
But
if what you're doing commands respect, and they go, well, I don't like Andrew. He's a bit too in your face, but actually, I really respect what he's doing, and I can see the benefit that the program gives to those people who listen to it. So I thought that was fascinating, because it just turns it. You think about that assumption. Oh, I need to be liked, and then you go, actually, do I need to be liked? I really like that, Adrian. That is going to stick with me today.
There
definitely.
you go. Yeah, and actually just being who you are, and also recognizing that not everybody in life you're going to like, but you can respect them, right, for what they're doing. Yeah, I'm with you. Nice one, Adrian. There you go. We've unpacked that for you. How about that?
Like that.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's about it, really.
That's
I mean,
about
we
it.
talk about preparation is essential, but the ability to adjust is good, Jonas. And it's stopping you in your tracks, isn't it? And going, oh, actually, is this? It's that knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? I mean, we've had a couple of things over the last week where we've kind of gone for a knee-jerk reaction and gone, just need to let this settle.
Spot on.
And then you look at it again and you go, it's not as catastrophic as I thought. Okay. And you move on. But until somebody points out to you that you can actually do that, it's kind of mind-boggling, really.
Yeah, actually, there's something so profound in that, Sarah, what you've just said there. I'm just thinking about that, Maria. So sometimes we respond in the moment. We respond maybe to a shock situation unresourcefully. So for example, the other day, someone spilt some coffee over a brand new laptop. And of course, that's going to make you go, just bought this flipping laptop for you, well, for God's sake, it's like, sorry, technical term, for heaven's sakes, so you get angry about it because it's just so frustrating, right? But that's just our first reaction, isn't it? That doesn't necessarily mean it's our best reaction. It just means that's the reaction we chose in that moment, which is exactly what it is. It's a reaction. Doesn't mean that's who we are. It just means that's the choice that we just made, but it is reversible, right? We could
absolutely. And I think a good analogy is, if you were to put your hand on a hot stove, and you burn your hand, and you'd move your hand away quickly, so you would have the reaction, but you wouldn't keep your hand on the stove, would you?
No.
And keep going. So moaning about that coffee on the laptop all day, all week, keep going on about it. Some of us, sometimes we choose to stay in that negative state, don't we? We have the reaction, but then we choose to stay there, and we keep our hand on the stove, and we keep going on about how negative that is and how bad that is. And so I think it is, you're right, we're all human. We all have a reaction. But the idea is that let's have the reaction in the shortest amount of time, and then let's just try and switch to that other side of the brain. Self-command that can actually think about this more reasonably. So
and choose a different response, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So if we start defending that unresourceful thing because we're proud of ourselves, or we don't want to look a fool or whatever, we can end up looking even more of a fool because we're just not changing our mind, right? We're just digging in, and actually we're just keeping our hand in the fire. I'm with you. Right.
So it is going to that more resourceful place, as you say. It is about, okay, yes, things happen and we do react, but actually let's use the muscles in our brain and command ourselves to think about this in a different way.
I
And
like
it is,
that.
it's difficult. It does take practice.
So the self-command muscle that you talked about, I really love that. And we're just sort of coming to we sort of just coming to an end of the show shortly, not quite yet, but so if you had a limiting belief, what kind of way, what would you do? What kind of little exercise could people do? What practical thing could they do to help them to become, to build that muscle, as you talked about? What little techniques might you have, Maria, to help us?
I think it is exploring them when we think about our beliefs. So it's exploring, are they actually ours, or have they been passed to us? Because sometimes you can find that you have a certain belief. It's not even yours. It's maybe the way that you were brought up. It was a tradition in the family to do or be a certain way. And it might no longer serve you and what you're trying to do in life. So it's about having a look at, if you're feeling some resistance somewhere in life, you're just not feeling that some things you're enjoying them as much, or you are finding yourself very stressed or very reactive, it's like go right back to the beginning and have a look at, well, what are the things that I am believing about myself? What do I believe about myself? And do I really believe this? Or has someone told me this? So for example, if I believe I'm not very confident, not very good with people, and that's sort of a belief that I've got about myself, if I'm being honest, I'm not really that good in groups.
Yeah, so I'm never
saying that like
confident
it's a
in
truth,
groups.
aren't I? I'm telling you that as if that is a truth.
Gotcha.
I'm not really very good in groups of people. I'm not very good speaking to people.
Yeah.
And then have a look at what you're trying to achieve throughout your day. And where does this belief trip you up? Where is this belief holding you back? Because if you are actually having to spend quite a bit of your week in groups of people, yet you're walking around holding the belief that you prefer just one-on-one, you're not very good in groups, then you are just going to make that happen. Your body will respond in a way that maybe makes you go very quiet in a group, or you're holding on to something that is not serving you. And a way to turn that around is, well, just start to say to yourself, do you know what? I think I might be good in groups. I think I'm all right, actually, in groups of people. I think I enjoy people's company. If I enjoy a one-on-one, why can't I enjoy being in a group of 5 or 6? It's possible. So let's explore the other option, because for every belief we have, there's an opposite. So I always think it's really interesting to look at the opposite of what is possible.
Beautiful. So look at the opposite of what is possible. I've got a real example for you here, Maria. So I remember once when, I was first out and doing presentations in front of people, and I used to have this belief, and it was deeply held, Maria, that people, I had to work hard to get people to like me, because really, naturally, people don't like me. And I remember sharing this with a colleague of mine and saying that this was really hurting me, because, I'd feel it inside of me. And some of the audience might even pick that up. And I was frightened about it. And my fellow colleague said to me, well, why don't you just change the language and pretend that people like you? And I thought to myself, well, that's just stupid, because the truth is that people don't like me. And now you're just saying to me, well, just pretend people like me. But the more I thought about it, Maria, the more I thought that's a really good idea. So I started to try it. And so I wore the belief like a piece of clothing that people like me. And you know what? Funny enough, that changed everything, because it's like, because your physiology changes, then the things that people pick up about you is, instead of you saying to myself, like me, subconsciously people are saying, when they see that, is, oh, Andrew just wants to be liked, so therefore their natural inclination is not to like you. Where instead, if you just wear the belief that, well, actually people like me, the audience then thought, potentially, well, he's really comfortable in his own skin, and I really like this guy. It changed everything for me, as simple as that. But the step in between that was, so from people don't like me to people like me, I used a medium step in the middle to say, I'm learning that people like me. And there's a thought for you guys. Brilliant. I am learning that to change the belief. I'm learning to be confident. I'm learning to be good enough. I'm learning to be liked. I'm learning to be less of a perfectionist. I'm learning that mistakes are okay, or whatever. I'm learning that I don't need to be embarrassed if I get something wrong or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but there's probably better language than that. I'm learning to let go if you've got control, those kind of things. Okay.
That's right. And it's also, a good question to ask people sometimes I'm working with them is, what lies are you telling yourself? It is what, because we all do tell ourselves, a lot of what we believe isn't true anyway.
No.
So why not believe something that's actually helpful to us? That, as you say, it was not helpful for you to go around believing people didn't like you.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. It wasn't true, and it wasn't helpful.
It wasn't helpful, and also there's always, we're talking about your group thing. If I'm no good in groups, say, as a belief. Well, actually, there's got to be some time that you were good in a group.
Exactly.
So rather than think of the times that you were bad in a group, think about the times you were good in a group.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Absolutely. There's always the evidence for the other side. It's just our brain, once we start to really cement a thought in our head, we find a couple of times that maybe something didn't go well. We think, there you go, there's your evidence. So you're not good, So we are very good at that. But I think to really explore the things that we hold as truths, and it is difficult to identify, because how do you sometimes identify a belief when you just take it as a given, as a truth?
Absolutely, as a truth.
Doesn't need questioning. Yeah,
exactly, and that's the problem, because they're deep rooted. Graham says, "I love this. I'm learning not to get cross about a damaged laptop." Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So look, we're coming to the end of the show now, but very quickly here, this is talk us through your CTA here, then your call to action here.
Well, I know I mentioned very briefly the different saboteurs, the different voices in our mind. Well, if you actually go to this company, Positive Intelligence, click on this link, and there's a free assessment. It takes 5 minutes to complete, and you will be able to identify your top saboteurs that accomplish the judge in your mind. And we all have this. This isn't something that some of us have, some of us don't. We have all got this to a certain, degree. And it's the ability to quieten that mind chatter and switch to the part of our brain that allows us deep wisdom. So the breathing techniques that I talk about, going inwards, taking a couple of minutes throughout the day just to focus on your breathing, or focus on sound or a feeling in the body, and just let thoughts pass through. This is a way of practicing using these muscles that will allow you in a stressful situation to switch the self-command muscles, to switch to the wisdom, where the wisdom lives in us, rather than the reactive, negative judge that jumps out and wants to condemn everything. It's not helpful.
Brilliant. So there's the website there, folks. And we've been talking about these avoiders and controllers and hyperachievers and things like that here as well, hypervigilant people. So there we go. And your stuff's, your links are entering into the feed. Just before we go any further, let's just bring back Mrs. Moderator. What's going to quickly happening in the chat just for a moment, Sarah?
Adrian, the words listen contains the same letters as the word silence.
Yeah.
Great for relationships.
You're on it today, Adrian. Look at you, Mr. Chase. Yeah.
Sandra Howe, thought-provoking. Thanks, Maria. Brilliant.
Thanks, Sandra.
Jackie Balkan, really interesting session. Thank you. Timely as I start a new role to consider my impact and blocks.
Oh, hey, Jackie.
There you go.
I used to work with Jackie.
There you go. Oh, brilliant. There you go. Loved all the input.
Really good session today.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. So, thank you ever so much, Maria. And
it was a pleasure. It's really good fun.
We've loved having you, and thank you for enlightening us today with an extraordinary conversation around limiting beliefs and how to turn them around. And we've loved having you on the show again. And this will be on podcast 2 shortly, folks. So, please remember to subscribe to our Leaders Live email so we can keep you updated. And all of our other channels. And this really does help us to grow and evolve, folks. So please subscribe to our email channel. It'd be brilliant. And the links will be in the URL tree. And it's that easy. It's easy peasy. And Sarah or Tilly will put the links in. And thanks, Tilly, for doing the comments. That's fantastic. And before I get on to what's on next week, quick reminder, look, Leaders Live, it's a free show, folks. For all leaders, directors, managers, entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in business growth through infotainment, edutainment, and enjoy taking part in interactive conversations just like we've had today. So together we aim to make the world betterer, folks. I love that word, betterer, even more betterer. And we want to bring a spirit of joy, of freedom, of fun, and the feel-good factor in all our working lives. And that whole thing about, love is so important, and that's what we try to bring with this show. So this is a quick show reel about Ghost, our sponsor. So very quickly. And there you go. I love that little show reel. So Ghost are a brand and design agency with an exceptional team of highly skilled and vibrant people that help develop and shape brands to inspire businesses, just like mine, just like yours. So there we go. And very quickly, here's Sarah just to kind of do our call to action as well. So over to you, Sarah, for a moment.
Yeah, just to remind people that Andrew isn't just Leaders Live. He loves working with teams, with people, with managers. If there's anything you want a bit of help with, a bit more oomph, or just struggling with, it costs nothing to talk. So pick up the phone. We'd love to help, love to have those conversations. Big shout out to Tilly and Marketing CX, who help us massively throughout the week and on the show themselves. If you've got any LinkedIn issues or need a bit of help, or again, Tilly loves to talk to people and see how she can help them. So yeah, and if you've enjoyed Leaders Live, tell all your friends.
Tell all your friends. There you go.
The more the merrier.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Sarah. And the goose for next week, folks, 7th of March at the same time, 8:45 a.m. We're going to hang out with Steve Wright, not the DJ, but Steve Wright, the photographer and videographer, and also James Bond lookalike too. And our theme is video photos, choosing the best frame to showcase your business. Oh, I think that sounds really good. Wow. So Steve reckons it's your personality that makes a shot stand out, or a standout shot. And Steve, he says that it's our personality that makes us shine, and through photographs and through video, we can just do that. And we think you're going to love it, folks. So that's where we're going. And we're going to finish with a closer today. So thank you very much for being on the show, folks. Here's our closer. We're going to say goodbye to you now. Cheers, folks. Have a great week. Cheers for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, here we're going to wave goodbye to you. So thanks from all the whole team. So from Maria, Sarah, me, our sponsors, Ghost and Marketing CX, we wish you a great week ahead. Cheers for now, folks. And have a great time. Ta-ra a bit. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye. There we go. Fantastic. Thank you very much.